Life has a way of testing the soul, of pressing its heavy hand upon the chest until breathing feels like labor, until hope flickers like a candle in the wind. It does not ask permission to bruise, nor does it wait for readiness before it delivers its blows. There are days when the weight of existence feels too great, when the road ahead is lost beneath the rubble of broken dreams, and the soul, oh, the soul, trembles beneath the burden. It is in these moments when strength has failed and the body has surrendered that the spirit must decide whether to remain on its knees or to rise again. But where does the strength to rise come from when the world has taken all it could? Where does the weary heart find solace when its cries are met with silence? The answer does not lie in the hands of men, nor in the promises of this fleeting world. It lies in something greater, something unseen but ever present, something that calls the shattered back to wholeness, that reaches into the darkness and pulls the fallen into the light. This is not a speech of despair, nor of hopelessness. This is a message of rising, of finding the arms that will lift when all else has failed. Stay with me now, for what I am about to tell you is not just words. It is the whisper of every soul that has ever fallen and found the strength to stand again. There are moments in life when the wind howls too loud and the storm rages too fierce, when the hands that once held firm begin to slip, and the ground that once felt steady crumbles beneath trembling feet. You may have known days like this where the sun refused to shine and the night stretched on too long. The kind of days when laughter feels like a stranger and tears become familiar friends. It is a sorrow that does not knock before entering. It simply arrives, uninvited and unwelcome, but there nonetheless. I've seen souls bent under the weight of burdens too great to bear, seen eyes dim with the exhaustion of carrying sorrow alone. I have watched dreams wither in the hands of those who once held them tight, have heard the sighs of the weary echo through the empty halls of time. Oh, but do not mistake weariness for weakness. Do not believe that falling means failure, for even the mightiest of trees bend beneath the wind, even the strongest of mountains are kissed by the rain. There is something greater, waiting beyond the darkness, something powerful enough to mend what has been broken. But it does not come when the heart is filled with pride, when the spirit clings to its own strength. No, it comes when surrender meets faith, when the weary hand releases its grip and allows itself to be held. You see, there is a force at work far beyond what the eye can see, a presence that does not falter, that does not waver in the face of despair. It is the gentle hand that lifts the fallen, the quiet whisper that speaks to the broken, the love that gathers the shattered pieces and makes them whole again. Oh, but how often do we fight against the very thing that seeks to save us? How often do we, in our desperation, try to lift ourselves when the weight is too much to bear? We claw at the dirt, we grasp at the empty air, thinking that if we just push a little harder, if we just try a little more, we will make it through. But my dear, tell me, have you not grown tired? Have you not seen that some battles are not meant to be fought alone? There is no shame in reaching for a hand greater than your own. There is no weakness in allowing yourself to be lifted. It is in that surrender, in that moment of trust, that true strength is found. For you were never meant to carry it all, never meant to walk through the fire alone. The lifting does not come in the way the world expects. It does not come with noise or spectacle, nor does it arrive with a grand announcement. It comes in the stillness, in the quiet moments when the heart whispers, I cannot do this alone. And a presence unseen but deeply felt answers, you do not have to. I have seen the downtrodden rise with new strength, seen the broken walk again with joy in their step. I have witnessed the impossible unfold before my very eyes, watched as those who had been counted out by the world found themselves standing taller than ever before. It is not by might nor by the strength of human hands, but by something far greater. It is the unseen arms that catch the falling, the quiet love that whispers, rise, my dear, for this is not your end. Do not let the darkness convince you that the light has been extinguished. Do not let the weight of this world tell you that you were meant to stay down. There is a hand reaching for you even now, a love that will not let you go, a presence that has seen every tear and heard every cry. It does not turn away, does not grow weary, does not forsake the ones who have fallen. So when life knocks you down, when the weight is too much, when the night is too long, remember, you are not alone. You were never meant to be. There is a lifting greater than your strength, a love deeper than your pain, a presence mightier than your storm. Do not resist the arms that reach for you. Do not fight against the hands that would carry you. Let yourself be lifted. Let yourself rise. There is something about the weight of sorrow that makes a person feel as though they have been carved into the earth itself, pressed down into the soil, bound by chains too strong to break. It is the heaviness that settles in the chest, that makes the air thick, that turns even the simplest of movements into burdensome tasks. When life knocks you down, it does not do so gently. It does not ask if you are ready, nor does it care if you are strong enough to endure the fall. It simply comes like an unrelenting storm, stripping you bare, leaving you shivering in the aftermath of its rage. And in that moment, when the dust settles and the silence grows loud, it is easy to believe that this is where you must remain. It is easy to convince yourself that rising is no longer an option. But I have known a power that does not leave the broken to decay in the dirt. I have known a force that does not turn away from the wounded, that does not discard the weary as useless. No, I have known a presence that kneels beside the fallen, that gathers them in gentle arms and whispers, "This is not where your story ends." And oh, how sweet that voice is in the ear of the weary, how soothing it is to the one who has known nothing but struggle. It does not scold, it does not reprimand, it does not demand explanations or justify the pain. It simply reaches, lifting without hesitation, holding without condition, restoring without question. But the heart, oh, the heart has a way of resisting love when it has known too much pain. The soul has a way of rejecting kindness when it has been broken too many times. How often do we push away the very thing meant to heal us? How often do we turn from the hand reaching to lift us because we have convinced ourselves that we are not worthy to rise? There is a cruel whisper that lingers in the mind of the fallen, a voice that says, "You deserve to stay down. You are too far gone. You have failed too many times." And if you listen too long, you will start to believe it. You will start to settle into the dust, to make a home in the ruin, to convince yourself that this is where you belong. But I tell you now, there is no fall so deep that you cannot be lifted. There is no sorrow so heavy that you cannot be carried. There is no shame so great that it disqualifies you from love. Do you hear me? No matter what has happened, no matter how far you have gone, no matter how broken you feel, there is still a lifting waiting for you. It does not ask where you have been. It does not require you to have the answers. It only asks that you let go, that you release your grip on the weight you were never meant to carry, that you surrender the burdens that have kept you bound for too long. But surrender is not easy for the weary. Letting go is not simple for the one who has spent their life fighting to survive. And yet, it is in the releasing that the true miracle happens. It is in the moment when the heart, tired and bruised, finally breathes out, "I cannot do this alone," that the lifting begins. It is not always instant. It does not always happen the way we expect. But oh, when it comes, when the weight begins to lift, when the broken pieces begin to mend, when the darkness begins to fade, there is no force in this world that can compare to it. I have seen the forgotten restored. I have seen the abandoned embraced. I have seen those who thought they had nothing left to give rise with new strength, walk with new purpose, live with new joy. It was never by their own strength. It was never by their own will. It was by the hand that reached into their despair, by the love that refused to let them go, by the presence that lifted them from the ashes and called them whole again. So do not let the darkness convince you that you must remain in its grip. Do not let the storm make you believe that the sun will never shine again. Do not let the fall tell you that you are unworthy to rise. There is a hand reaching for you even now, a love that has never left, a presence that will not turn away. You do not have to do this alone. You do not have to fight this battle with your own strength. There is something greater, something stronger, something unshakable waiting to lift you if only you will let it. Oh, but the world will tell you otherwise. The world will say that you must be strong on your own. It will tell you that asking for help is weakness, that needing to be lifted is failure. But I say, what is weakness but an opportunity for strength to be revealed? What is falling but an invitation to rise again? The world does not understand the power of surrender. It does not know the beauty of resting in arms that never grow weary. But those who have known true lifting, those who have felt the embrace of love that does not falter, they understand. They know that there is no shame in being carried, no disgrace in being held, no failure in being lifted. So when life knocks you down, when the weight becomes too much, when the road ahead seems too long, do not fight alone. Do not struggle in silence. Do not believe the lie that you must do this by yourself. There is a lifting waiting for you, a love that will not let you go, a presence that will meet you where you are and carry you where you need to be. And when you are lifted, when your feet find solid ground once more, when your heart begins to beat with new hope, do not forget the power that raised you. Do not forget the love that restored you. Do not forget the presence that never let you go. Because one day you will meet another who has fallen, another who has grown weary, another who has lost their way. And when you do, you will know what to say. You will know how to reach them, how to lift them, how to tell them the truth that once set you free. You will stand as living proof that falling is not the end, that sorrow is not forever, that there is always a way to rise again. Because you, my dear, were never meant to stay down. You were never meant to be buried beneath the weight of this world. You are always meant to rise, always meant to be lifted, always meant to walk in a strength that is not your own. And no matter how far you have fallen, no matter how long you have been down, that lifting is still waiting. That love is still calling. That presence is still reaching for you, whispering, "Come, my dear. This is not where your story ends." There is a moment just after the fall when the air is heavy with silence. The world keeps moving, but you feel frozen in place, trapped in the weight of what has happened. People pass by, unaware of the ache in your chest, the trembling in your hands, the way your spirit has cracked beneath the pressure of it all. You want to call out to ask for help, but the words do not come. You sit in the stillness, wondering if this is how it ends, if this is where you stay. And then comes the whisper, soft and steady, barely louder than a breath. It does not shout. It does not demand. It does not rush. It simply waits, waits for you to hear, waits for you to turn your ear toward something beyond the sorrow. At first you do not believe it. At first you think it must be some fragment of your own weary mind trying to comfort itself. But it is not. It is something greater, something deeper, something stronger than your suffering. It is the call to rise. But rising is not easy when you have been on the ground for too long. The body forgets how to move, the soul forgets how to hope. You have grown used to the weight, used to the sorrow, used to the struggle. You tell yourself it is safer here, easier here, quieter here. The world cannot hurt you if you do not stand. The world cannot break you if you do not try again. But oh my dear, what kind of life is that? What kind of joy can be found in never moving forward, never stepping beyond the place of your fall? There is a hand reaching for you now, stronger than the forces that pulled you down, mightier than the fears that keep you bound. It is not the kind of lifting the world understands, not the kind of strength that demands you prove yourself before you are worthy of rescue. No, this is a lifting that comes without conditions, without hesitation, without question. It does not care how long you have been down. It does not care how far you have fallen. It only cares that you rise. But rising is not just about standing. It is about believing, about trusting, about letting go of the voices that say you cannot. It is about releasing the shame, the guilt, the regrets that have wrapped themselves around your heart and convinced you that you are too broken to be whole again. Oh, how many times have you listened to those voices? How many nights have you laid awake, replaying the moments that made you stumble, the choices that led you here? But tell me, has all that remembering ever lifted you? Has all that regret ever given you peace? There is no peace in the past. There is no healing in the hands of shame. If you want to rise, truly rise, you must unclench your fists, let go of what was, and reach for what is ahead. The past is done. The fall has already happened. But the rising, that is still waiting. That is still yours to choose. And you do have a choice, even if it does not feel like it now. Even if the weight has convinced you that you have no strength left. Even if the sorrow has whispered that this is all there is, you still have a choice. You can stay down, or you can be lifted. You can believe the voices that tell you this is where your story ends, or you can believe in the presence that says this is where your story begins again. You can keep your eyes fixed on the darkness, or you can turn toward the light that has never stopped shining, even when you could not see it. And when you rise, when you stand on your feet once more, do not be surprised if the world does not understand. Some will ask why you did not stay down. Some will question how you found the strength to stand. Some will wonder why you did not let the weight of the fall define you. But you will know. You will know that it was not your own power that carried you. You will know that there was something greater than your sorrow, greater than your pain, greater than your past. Something that reached into the deepest part of your despair and called you by name. And when you walk forward, when you take steps into the life that is still waiting for you, do not walk in fear. Do not walk in doubt. Walk with the confidence of someone who has been lifted, someone who has been restored, someone who has been given a second chance, not because they earned it, but because they were loved enough to receive it. The world will try to remind you of your fall. It will try to drag you back into the shadows, whisper that you do not deserve to stand. But do not listen. Keep moving. Keep rising. Keep walking in the strength that has been given to you. And when you see another soul lying in the dust, when you recognize the weight of sorrow in their eyes, do not pass them by. Stop. Reach for them. Tell them what you now know. Tell them that the fall is not the end, that the weight does not last forever, that there is something greater waiting to lift them too. Because this life will knock people down. It will shake foundations, break spirits, test the very limits of endurance. But no one was meant to stay down forever. No one was meant to carry burdens alone. No one was meant to walk through this life without ever being lifted. The presence that lifted you, that carried you, that gave you new strength, it is still reaching, still calling, still lifting. And as long as there is breath in your lungs, as long as there is life in your bones, there is always a way to rise. There are moments when the weight of the world becomes so unbearable that you wonder if you will ever breathe freely again. You carry burdens that were never meant to be yours alone, dragging them behind you like chains that refuse to break. The longer you carry them, the heavier they become, pressing into your shoulders, into your heart, into the very fabric of your soul. You grow tired, weary from the struggle, desperate for relief, but unsure if it will ever come. And then the world gives you its answer. It tells you to push harder, to keep striving, to bear it all with a smile as though you are not breaking under the strain. But I have known another way, a way that does not ask you to pretend you are unbreakable, a way that does not demand you prove your worth through suffering. It is a way of release, a way of surrender, a way of letting go so that you may finally be lifted. And yet, how many of us resist that lifting? How many of us cling to our burdens as though they define us, as though we are nothing without them? It is a strange thing to become so familiar with pain that we fear what life would be without it. We hold on to our sorrows like old friends, not because they bring us comfort, but because they are all we have known for so long. But what if I told you that you were never meant to carry this weight alone? What if I told you that the lifting has been waiting for you, patient and unyielding, never once turning away, even when you convinced yourself you were beyond saving? Oh, how often we believe that lie. How often we tell ourselves that we have gone too far, made too many mistakes, stumbled too many times to be lifted again. But do you think the lifting depends on your perfection? Do you think it is reserved only for those who have never fallen? No, my dear, the lifting was made for the broken, for the weary, for the ones who have known the depths of despair and yet still long to see the light again. But rising is not without its struggles. The world does not easily let go of those it has tried to keep down. It will whisper doubts into your ears, remind you of every failure, every flaw, every misstep. It will try to convince you that your past is too heavy to leave behind, that your mistakes are written in stone, that no matter how hard you try, you will always end up back in the dust. And for a moment, you may believe it. For a moment, the shadows may seem too thick, the weight too great, the road ahead too long. But let me tell you something, the darkness has never been stronger than the light, and no weight in this world is too heavy to be lifted. There is a strength waiting for you that does not depend on your own abilities. It does not require you to have it all figured out, does not ask for perfection before it reaches for you. It simply asks that you open your hands, that you stop clinging to the burdens you were never meant to carry, that you trust enough to let go. And oh, I know how terrifying that can be. I know the fear of releasing control, the fear of stepping into the unknown, the fear of rising when you have been on the ground for so long. But trust me when I say that the moment you surrender, the moment you let yourself be lifted, you will wonder why you ever resisted in the first place. Because when you are lifted, truly lifted, something inside you shifts. The weight that once seemed unbearable becomes light. The sorrow that once felt endless begins to fade. The road that once seemed impossible to walk suddenly feels full of possibility. And no, the journey will not be without struggles. No, you will not wake up one day and find that all your troubles have vanished, but you will find something greater. You will find the strength to keep going, the courage to keep believing, the hope that once seemed lost. And when you rise, when you stand once more, do not forget what it felt like to be on the ground. Do not forget the struggle, the pain, the moments of doubt, because one day you will come across another soul who has fallen, another heart weighed down by burdens too great to bear alone. And when you do, you will know exactly what they need. You will know how to reach for them, how to speak words of life into their weary spirit, how to remind them that they too can be lifted, because you, my dear, are living proof that the fall is never the end. You are living proof that there is always a way to rise. So do not be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to surrender. Do not be afraid to take the hand that is reaching for you even now, waiting to lift you higher than you ever imagined, because this is not where your story ends. This is only the beginning. There are days when the echoes of your own doubt seem louder than the voice of hope. You wake up feeling the weight of all that has gone wrong, all that has been lost, all the ways in which life has tested you beyond what you thought you could bear. The mind is quick to remember pain, quick to remind you of your failures, quick to replay the moments that left you breathless, kneeling on the floor, wondering if you would ever stand again. But pain is not the end of the story. The weight you carry is not the final chapter. The darkness that surrounds you now is not strong enough to put out the light that is waiting to rise within you. But you must be willing to lift your head. You must be willing to let yourself be helped. You must be willing to believe that even after the longest night, the morning will come. Oh, I know how it feels to sit in the silence, to stare at the shattered pieces of what once was, and wonder if anything good can come from the ruins. I know how it feels to question whether you have anything left to give, whether you can even take another step without crumbling beneath the weight of it all. But my dear, do you not see? The fact that you are still here, still breathing, still searching for an answer, means that the story is not over yet. It means that there is still more ahead, still more waiting for you, still more that has been set aside just for you. And oh, how the world will try to convince you otherwise. It will tell you that once you have fallen, you will never rise again. It will tell you that some wounds are too deep, some mistakes too great, some losses too unbearable to ever recover from. But you must not believe those lies. You must not let them take root in your soul. Because if you listen too long, you will begin to accept them as truth, and before you know it, you will stop fighting to rise at all. But the truth is this: no matter how far you have fallen, no matter how heavy the burdens, no matter how deep the sorrow, there is still a way forward. There is still a hand reaching for you, still a presence that refuses to leave you where you are. And this presence does not care how long you have been in the dust. It does not ask how many mistakes you have made. It does not measure your worth by your past. It only cares that you rise. But rising is a choice. Oh, how easy it would be if we were simply lifted without effort, if the weight was taken without our own participation. But that is not how true rising happens. No, you must decide. You must choose to stand even when your knees tremble. You must choose to trust, even when fear grips your heart. You must choose to step forward even when you cannot yet see the path ahead. And when you take that first step, when you begin to rise, you will feel the strength that has been waiting for you all along. You will realize that you were never truly alone, that you were never truly abandoned, that even in your darkest moments you were being prepared for something greater. And the world will not understand. Some will question how you found the strength to stand again. Some will doubt the change they see in you. Some will try to remind you of who you used to be, of where you have been, of what you have done. But you must not let their voices shake you. You must not let their doubts become your own. Because you know what it took to rise. You know the battles you have fought, the nights you have cried, the moments when you thought you would never make it through. You know the strength it took to choose hope when despair felt easier. And now that you have risen, you must walk forward in that strength. You must step boldly into the life that is still waiting for you, the purpose that is still unfolding before you. But do not forget the journey. Do not forget what it felt like to be on the ground, to be lost, to be broken. Because one day you will meet someone who is still there. You will see the weariness in their eyes, the weight they carry, the fear that they will never rise again. And you will know exactly what to say. You will know how to reach for them, how to remind them that the fall is not the end, that there is still hope, that they too can be lifted. Because this is not just about you. This is not just about your rising. This is about all those who will be inspired by your strength, all those who will find hope in your story, all those who will believe in their own rising because they saw you refuse to stay down. And that is why you must keep going. That is why you must not give up. Because someone somewhere needs to see that rising is possible. Someone somewhere needs to know that no matter how far they have fallen, they can still be lifted. So walk forward, keep rising, keep believing. And when the weight of life tries to pull you down again, remember that you were not meant to carry it alone. Remember that there is a strength greater than your own, a presence that has never left you, a love that will never let you go. And that love, that strength, that presence, it will always be enough. There are moments when life feels like a battlefield, and you are standing in the middle of it with nothing left to give. You have fought, you have struggled, you have poured out every ounce of strength within you, and yet the weight remains, the wounds remain. The memories of the past keep circling like vultures, whispering all the reasons why you will never make it, why you are not strong enough, why you should just surrender to the storm. And maybe for a moment you believe them. Maybe for a moment you let the fear sink in, let the exhaustion take over, let the pain convince you that this is where your journey ends. But this is not where your journey ends. You were never meant to stay on the ground. You were never meant to live in defeat, in despair, in the belief that you will never rise again. Because even when everything around you tells you that you have been abandoned, that you have been forgotten, that there is nothing left for you, there is a power that says otherwise. There is a presence that has never left your side, a love that has never given up on you, a strength that is waiting to carry you forward. But you must decide. You must decide to rise even when your legs are trembling. You must decide to believe even when doubt is whispering in your ear. You must decide to trust the process even when you cannot see the end result. Because the truth is, rising is not always immediate. Sometimes it is slow, sometimes it is painful, sometimes it feels like taking one step forward and two steps back. But if you keep going, if you keep trusting, if you keep believing, you will find yourself standing again. You will find yourself stronger than before. You will find yourself walking in a power that you never thought possible. And when you stand, do not let the world shake you. Do not let the voices of the past pull you back down. Do not let the lies of the enemy convince you that you are not worthy of the new beginning in front of you. Because you are. You are worthy. You are enough. You are not defined by your past, not limited by your mistakes, not chained to the person you used to be. You have been lifted. You have been restored. And nothing can take that away from you. But rising is not just about you. It is about every person who will see your story and find hope for their own. It is about every soul who has been knocked down, who has been told that they will never make it, who has been drowning in the same darkness that once tried to consume you. Because when they see you standing, when they see you walking in your purpose, when they see the fire in your eyes and the strength in your steps, they will begin to believe that they too can rise. And when they come to you, broken and weary, do not turn them away. Do not forget what it felt like to be where they are. Do not withhold the love and encouragement that you once needed yourself. Because this world does not need more critics, does not need more judgment, does not need more reminders of failure. This world needs more lifters, more encouragers, more people willing to reach out and say, I know what it feels like to be in the dark, but I also know what it feels like to step into the light. And oh, how beautiful it is when you realize that the pain you endured was not in vain. That every tear you cried, every night you spent wondering if you would make it through, every battle you fought, all of it was leading you to this moment, leading you to a place where you could stand with confidence, with purpose, with a heart so full of fire that no storm can put it out. Because now you do not just carry your own strength. You carry the strength of every hardship you have overcome, every valley you have walked through, every mountain you have climbed. And when the storms come again, and they will come, you will not fear. Because you have already faced the darkness and won. You have already been knocked down and risen again. You have already walked through the fire and come out stronger, and now nothing can shake you, nothing can break you, nothing can stop you from stepping into the life that was meant for you. So keep rising, keep believing, keep walking in the power that has been placed within you, because you are not just a survivor, you are a warrior. You are not just someone who has endured, you are someone who has conquered. And there is still so much more ahead for you, still so much more waiting for you, still so much more that has been set aside just for you. And if only you could see what is coming, if only you could see the beauty that is waiting on the other side of this battle, you would never doubt again. So take a deep breath, wipe your tears, lift your head, and keep going. Because this is not where your story ends. This is only the beginning. So now, after all the trials, after all the moments when you thought you couldn't make it, after all the nights that felt endless and the battles that seemed unwinnable, you are still here. You have faced storms that should have broken you, but they did not. You have walked through fire that should have consumed you, but it did not. And you have been knocked down, left breathless, left wondering if you would ever rise again. But you did. This is the truth you must carry forward. No fall is final. No wound is beyond healing. No past is too heavy to overcome. You are stronger than you know, and you are not walking alone. There is a lifting, a presence that has been holding you up even when you thought you were alone, even when you thought you had nothing left to give. And as you rise, as you step into what is waiting for you, do not let fear hold you back. Do not let the past define you. The journey does not end here. Keep rising, keep believing, keep walking forward, because the best is still ahead, and you were made to stand.